You just beast. Yes.
Oh yeah.
So today on Monday Mods, we're taking a look at a 2003 Honda Accord EX with the 3-liter that's got a battery light that's coming on. You may notice symptoms like there's other lights that are coming on, other warning lights, such as the VSC and even the brake light that are coming on. And at nighttime you may notice that certain lights in the car, such as the map light or even the headlights, will glow slightly brighter than normal. That might be a little bit harder to notice, but it does happen. Okay, so first we're going to start by testing the battery starter and alternator.
Make sure you do red to black and black to red.
That's right. So first we're going to test our battery. We've got our Interstate battery ED18 here. This is a really good tool for doing this. Now, I'm not going to show you everything because you guys aren't going to have one of these.
Unless they do.
Which they don't. Okay, and it's going to ask me the cold cranking amps of the battery and that it's a top post. So I'm going to select those options. And this battery is rated at 525 cold cranking amps, as you can see right here. So I'm going to set my tester to 525 cold cranking amps and move on. And this one has a temperature sensor to measure the temperature of the battery. We have a surface charge. Okay, so we're going to turn the headlights on, which on this car, just turn that on right there. Headlights on detected. Turn on the high beams. Okay. That was detected. We're going to turn the headlights off now. Basically what that does is if the battery has a charge over the normal like 12.6 volts, which can happen right after you drive the car because it's been charging, turning the headlights on is going to bring that back down to where it should be so we can test the battery. Okay, this actually says that we need to replace our battery. I did test it earlier and it tested perfectly fine. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to replace the alternator and charge the battery and then retest it. And so now we're going to do a system test, which is going to test the starter and our alternator. And we know that the starter is fine because it cranks like normal. I got this. I used to do this all the time.
Yo, now you just work at a computer.
So first we're going to start the engine. Go ahead and turn off the blower and everything. Okay, as you can see, cranking normal. That's normal stuff. So we're going to move on to next. Checking the alternator output. Turn all vehicle loads off. So make sure all your lights and your blower is off. Make sure there's no heated seats on or anything. Hit next. Okay, we're just going to rev the engine a little bit for a couple seconds. Okay, idle engine. Next. Okay, now it wants us to turn on the headlights, the high beams, and the blower on max. Okay, move on. It's going to test it again. And then we're going to rev up the engine a little bit. You can see we're having some charging system problems right there already. And there's our battery light. Engine rev detected, idle engine. Hit next. Okay, turn off the loads and the engine. And then this will show us our results. Okay, high voltage, which is what our problem is. Our battery light comes on and our lights glow too bright. You can see loaded here we have 17.25, or you can see
numbers are hard.
Yeah, they are. You can see here we have 17.24 volts, which is significantly higher. We should have no more than about 15 volts. So we're gonna put an alternator on this because the voltage regulator is built into the alternator on this car. So the first step on replacing an alternator would be to disconnect the negative battery cable. But on Hondas, you need to make absolute sure that you have the radio code first, or else the radio will lock out.
Do you have that code?
I do. And this is the owner's manual that came with the car and everything. But the card's gonna look something like this. It's gonna say anti-theft radio, identification card, and it's gonna have your code down here. And I'll show you how to enter that later once we get the alternator done.
Don't be a potato. Leave that battery hooked up.
So first we're gonna disconnect the negative battery cable. Let's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Okay. Put that off there, check that out of the way. We don't want that touching, okay?
What?
You don't want it to touch the...
Oh, okay.
Stupid.
Wait. You. I was like, I thought you were talking about like touching the body of the car or something. I was like, why? But
Oh, yeah.
touching the post makes sense.
Okay, so because we're professionals here on Monday Mods, we're gonna use a ratcheting gear wrench serpentine belt tool. So we're gonna put this on the belt tensioner, which there's actually 2 pulleys that are attached to the belt tensioner. We're gonna use the top one. We're gonna go in a counterclockwise fashion and then just slip it off the alternator. In this case, our serpentine belt is in pretty good shape, so we're just gonna go ahead and reuse it. Okay, so first we're just gonna remove this 10mm bolt right here. Hold this harness down. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and unplug my alternator connector down here. You just squeeze the tab and pull up on it, just like that. And then we have one more cable. Try to get down here. You gotta pull this grommet up. Pull this grommet out of the way. Okay, so we're gonna take a 13mm socket and a ratchet. Take off the positive battery cable from the alternator. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. See, right now, if I didn't disconnect the battery cable, I would be shorting this ratchet out to ground on the exhaust. Take off our cable, and we're just gonna get this out of the way. Look at that.
Step 2 is the wire tech.
Right. We've got 2 more bolts that are holding the alternator in place. Right here at the top, and down here at the bottom. It's a little hard to see, but it's there. You can feel it. That's what she said.
Did she? I never heard her say that.
This top bolt is a 12mm. Right there. 12mm on the top bolt. So on the bottom bolt, we're going to use a 14mm socket, and I'm going to start with a deep to allow me to clear the alternator pulley. It's kind of on there a little bit.
That's good. At least your alternator's not going to fall off.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't really worried about that, but...
You never know, you just bought it.
Right.
That's a real cute position you got there.
Like that?
Yeah. You got all the women jealous.
Oh, shit. Oh, I almost got my ratchet stuck.
Oh, dude, that would be so shitty.
Okay. The bottom bolt was a little bit too tight to turn by hand. I just wiggled the alternator until it loosened up. Sometimes that makes it a little bit easier. And there's our bolt.
I hate when they're too long. You can't pull them out.
Right? I'm like, who built this?
Right.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and take this bracket out. Might make clearance a little bit easier. The procedure actually calls for taking the fan shroud out, and I'm going to try to avoid that. And sometimes you have to wiggle them. or even pry on them sometimes. Okay, there it is. Didn't really help us a whole lot, but it might have given us enough room to get it out of there. And there it is, without removing the fan shroud.
This is how mechanics make good money.
All right. See, there's your battery terminal, your 4-pin plug. Okay. Shiny. So you want to put your alternators next to each other to make sure that all the mounting points and connectors are all the same. Make sure everything's in the same location. And for good measure, spin it, make sure it doesn't squeak or anything. Okay. And then don't forget, you have a core charge on your old alternator. So make sure you put that back in the box. A lot of times they won't accept it if you don't have the box. Put it back in the box and take it back to the parts store.
Never last.
So on the bottom alternator mounting point, a lot of times there's a sleeve right here that can sometimes make it hard to install the new alternator. What you can actually do is you can take a socket that fits around the sleeve and a big pair of pliers. If this is on the alternator, you can actually take the alternator over to a bench vise with a socket and push it so that it's open a little bit more. And then once you install the alternator and you torque the bolt down, it will pull the sleeve back against the alternator where it's supposed to be. Triple tested. Tech support from AutoZone. I don't know if I would call AutoZone tech support.
This is John.
Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and remove this battery terminal nut just so that it doesn't fall off and we lose it and then we can't find it. And just shove it in there.
Plug it in.
Be kind of gentle, but shove it in there firmly. Give it a firm, gentle shove.
You probably shouldn't tell them that. Monday Mont said, crank. I always do everything Monday Mont says.
Ow! That was my finger. We're going to start our bottom bowl here, and it may not go in all the way. Just wiggle the alternator until the bowl holes line up.
Or spit on it.
Yeah, spit on it. So it kind of looks like I don't know what I'm doing. I promise I've done this before.
Once or twice.
Yeah, just a couple times. There we go.
Sorry, you dropped it.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and thread it a little bit. So before we tighten our bottom bolt, we need to go ahead and install this bracket, but don't tighten the bolts all the way just yet, because we'll have to pivot it to line up the other bolt. We're going to go ahead and start this bolt too. I'm going to go ahead and tighten my top bolts. Okay, and then the bottom bolt. Like I said, as you're tightening this, you'll push that sleeve against the alternator. Just make sure you get it pretty tight. You don't want it to come undone. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and reconnect the positive battery cable to the terminal on the alternator. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconnect our 4-pin connector. Just push it in until it clicks. There you go. Okay. And then we're going to bolt down our harness in its original location.
Damn.
See them skills?
I don't know if I call it skills.
Right, I did drop it.
Right.
Okay, so because I don't want to get any grease on the serpentine belt, I'm just going to go ahead and change my gloves. Okay, so now we've got everything together. We've got the belt on. Make sure that all your pulleys are lined up. If you feel the need, go ahead and start the engine for a couple of seconds. That way the belt will seat on all the pulleys, and then come out here and recheck it and make sure that they're all lined up. You don't want to tear up your belt just because you didn't put it on there, right? Now we're going to reconnect the negative battery cable, and make sure you get it pushed down all the way, because the battery terminal is actually tapered. So the further down it goes, the better the bite on the terminal. Get that snug and check it, make sure it's not going to move. While you're at it, check your positive. See, look, good thing I checked it. Exactly. That's why you check it.
What was the actual problem?
Right? So you gotta loosen it, because it's tapered. You gotta push it down. See how it went down more? And then tighten it up.
I'll just take the alternator out. That was your issue.
Okay, good. I'm just gonna go ahead and start the engine for a couple of seconds to seat the belt, and then recheck it to make sure the belt's lined up properly. Okay, let's go check it out. Come with me. Okay, check all our pulleys and crankshaft all the way around. AC pulley, both idler and tensioner. We're all good. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and retest our battery starter and alternator after we recharge the battery. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and input the radio lockout code. Okay, so let's turn the key on. Okay, and it's flashing the time. We'll have to set the time as well. But if you try to power on the radio, you'll see that it asks for a code. So our code, you can see the numbers don't exceed 6. If you look right here at our preset buttons on the radio, they don't exceed 6 either. So I'm gonna enter my number based on those numbers. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to reset the clock. It's kind of hard to see, but right here you can see embossed on the plastic, it says clock, right next to the sound button. So you're just going to hold the sound button until you hear a beep. Okay, and then you're going to use the 4 and 5 button to increase the hours and minutes. The 4 button is going to do hours, and the 5 button is going to change the minutes. And it is currently 10:58.
Oh, yeah. He's really good with his finger. Oh, I was hoping you were going to go over one.
Right. And then push the sound button again to lock it in. No problems. Good to go.
Yee.
Monday Mods does it again. That's it. Time to go home.
Solid as shit.
All things considered. All things considered. An alternator.
You're gonna have to do that again. I was moving the camera.
Okay.
Whoops.
Whoops.
Uh-oh, Spadudio.
I can't be laughing at this stuff. Okay. Woo! Battery cable, but on Hondas, you need to make sure that you have the battery code.
The battery code?
Battery code.
Yeah, you better
The
type that.
radio.
You gotta type that shit in.
Yeah. Try to get in on this so that use the top one, and it's gonna go in a counterclockwise.
Counterclockwise?
Words are hard.
Words are hard.
We're gonna go
Especially when you put them together and make, you know, sentences.
sentences. Yeah, sentences are hard. Okay.
Anthony.
No, he's okay. Wave, Anthony. Reconnecting that. I mean, I could just do the off, me taking it off in reverse, but.
This editing's getting lazy.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah.
Just reverse the whole.
Let me get my. Ready. You wanna hop in the passenger seat? Are you pretty clean?
No.
Yeah, you're good.
Better be spotless if you're getting in Jeff James feet.
Resets it.
Oh, okay. So it's 4 and 5.
So it's 3 and 5.
3 and what?
3 and 5. Like words are hard. Words and numbers
Well,
apparently.
hold on, don't set it, because